Okay, and I have shared the screen. Right, so in third lesson, we are going to learn about the internet and the email, right? Something that you know already, both the topics, which is internet and email. So it will be very easier for me to take you through this lesson, right? This is something very practical, but we are not doing much practicals regarding this lesson. We are having the theory concepts, what happens with the internet and email, and as well as there will be a very little practical for us to do well, and I will show it to you how the things are going to happen. Mostly there will be things that you know already, right? So let's walk through, right? Okay, so as the very first thing, they are introducing you the internet. So we know internet is the largest network, which is a wide area network, right? Which is made with the help of all the internet connected computers, right? So it creates the biggest network in the world. We call it a network of networks, right? So if someone asks literally what is the biggest network in the world, it is the internet, right? And this internet is managed by an organization which is a non-profitable organization called the Internet Society. Sometimes they call it the W3C, World Wide Web Consortium, right? Like in simply, it's the Internet Society that is maintaining the internet. No one owns that, right? But the Internet Society, they establish the protocols, the standards, the rules and regulations regarding this, and they are doing it as a non-profitable manner, right? So everyone can have this facility, everyone can receive this facility. You don't need to pay for that, for the facility, but you have to pay for the data. That means like it's to your service provider, not to the internet. So yeah, it has been it is established 20 to 30 years ago, but now it has been a very but a part of our life. In nowadays it's become like more in our life, like because we are like isolated into the houses and all these things. So internet is something we need, right? Okay, so from that uh, you are given the idea about the URL, which is called the Uniform Resource Locator. So whenever you are like visiting to the internet, like to check for an email, to visit a particular website, if you are doing a file transferring type in that manner, if you are like entering to chatting, right? In most of the cases, in not actually the most of the cases, in all the cases, you are referring with the URL. But when you are chatting and yeah, when you're chatting, you won't be able to see what's the URL or the uniform resource locator of yours, but definitely you can see the URL when you are visiting to a website, right? And when you visit to your email account, you will be able to see the URL. And what is this URL? URL is the one that you can see at the top of your browser, right? When you are visiting to a particular website, right? So as an example, I'm visiting to mine, right? So you know, this is the URL that you can see now when I'm visiting to some particular place inside my website. So URL differs, right? So likewise, so this is called the URL, which stands for Uniform Resource Locator, right? It indicates each and every place in the internet. So that particular place can be a web page, can be a particular resource like a video or an audio or a PDF file, right? So it can be, right now, if I click on this English note, right, this is referred to a PDF file. So if I click on it, you can see my URL get changed. So now it says www.starlabs.lk images GIT resources, not for students, GIT something 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 .pdf. So this is the name of this PDF document, right? And from here to here, it is the path where you can find that document, right? So you should visit to the starlabs.lk and go to the images folder and the GIT resources, and inside it there will be a PDF call like with this name, which is a bit bigger, right? So it shows you what is the way how to locate that, right? And this particular part, which we call www.starlabs.lk, it has two things, right? Which is the service and the domain name, right? So service here that we are using is www, which means World Wide Web. And please don't confuse www with internet. Internet and www are different things. It's actually www is inside the internet. It indicates actually the famous service inside the internet, right? So everyone use www, which is the World Wide Web, and it is part of the internet, right? Inside the internet, there will be many more services, which we are going to learn, right? So www is the service that that the internet is providing in this, indicated in this URL, right? And starlabs.lk is the one which we indicate as the domain name, right? And here inside this domain name, the .lk part is named as the top level domain. And the rest of the things, until it meets its resource, the resource can be a web page, a PDF, a video or audio or something, right? Until then, we call it the path to the resource. And at the very end, it has its resource name, right? So that is what, which is shown in your book as well, right? And there is a new thing at the front of your URL in the book, which is not seen in my browser here, right? So it says not secure. It is because it is not HTTPS, but actually when it comes to the let me copy this and take to a notepad. Let me see whether it is having the very, yeah. So look at the things that which is being pasted. I have taken this top URL from here, from the address bar. So it actually indicates like from here to here, www, it starts from www. Now what's happened when I copied it to the notepad? Apart from the www, there is something called http colon and double slash, right? Which we call the protocol, right? So there are many different protocols in the internet, right? HTTP is one. So protocol is something we use in communication. Like actually, it's some rules and regulations when we need to do the communication from one place to another, right? So as your book says, the URL consists of these things. We talk about this now at the very beginning, HTTPS, the colon and double slash. Actually, the colon and the double slash are called the separator, right? So the HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is commonly we name as the protocol, right? There will be many protocols. There can be many protocols in front of a URL. HTTP can be there, FTP can be there, right? There are many, right? And as I told you, www stands for World Wide Web. And yeah, excuse me for a moment, people. Right. Sorry for that. So as we talked, the www stands for World Wide Web, which is the service. And again, here we got edupub.gov.lk. And unlike the previous URL that you see regarding my website, it just has www.starlabs.lk. Like after the name of the website, there is just one dot and this LK is there. So I told you this LK stands for the top level domain, right? But when you're referring to the example of yours, it has edupub, which is the name of the website. And then there are gov and LK, like two top level, not actually the top level domains, two domains are there, right? So from these two, .lk is considered as the top level domains, right? So rest of the things are called as the domain. So what you have to remember is like what is there at the very end at the domain name is called the top level domain. In this case, it's the .lk part, right? And as I discussed with you, this is the path to a particular resource inside the internet. And this is in the very last part, it is called the resource, right? Minol, it's a paid domain. It's a renewal one, not monthly. Minol, I'm renewing it yearly, annually, right? Okay, so it is the story about the URL, Uniform Resource Locator, which we use to locate a particular resource inside the World Wide Web, right? And here at the bottom, they have given you some other URLs for you to refer, right, to identify what is an URL, so you know, right? And as well as yeah, they are going to talk about the IP address, but I'll skip it and come to the domain name as well, right? Before we go to this, let's note down some of the things what we have to refer regarding the lesson, right? So have the heading, the internet and electronic mail, the third lesson. And people who have came late, I was informing about an examination for the first term. So where you have to like do it in the class, right? So I will be giving you the paper, right? And just get ready with the what you have studied in the grade 10 as well as the first term from like from the first two lessons, right? So there will be questions regarding those. And I'll tell you a week advance when you are going to have the lesson, right? So you have a week to prepare. I'll tell you the date, right? Just to inform you that there will be an exam within next 2-3 weeks, right? So get ready. Like, I don't know whether you are receiving the examinations from school side, but anyway, you have to face with this, right? So get ready. Meanwhile, write down this heading, the internet and electronic email. Right, and under that, yeah, under that, let's, yeah, under that, just write these things. I'll highlight you the things what you need to get written down. Yeah, you start from here. Yeah, to this particular place. All right, copy it down, people. Right, let me know when you are done, people. Okay, are we done? Okay, one is done. How about others? Okay, right, two are done. How about others? All right, it seems a lot of people are done. Okay, so I'm going to move forward, right, and yeah, have the heading called Uniform Resource Locator, right? Uniform Resource Locator, and within brackets URL. This is the heading that is going to be. right? And under that, yeah, it's better you write it like this. I'll read this. You better write it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can write it starting from here. Starting from here to here, just copy it down. The internet contains a huge amount of information. The main service which provides this information is the World Wide Web. Likewise, go on till the end. All right, one is done. How about others? All right. Right, then after you have to have this picture, right? name those things carefully, because this has been checked in your O-level examination as well as in the term tests very much, right? So have it carefully, right?
So what's the use of two domains?
Two domains like gov.lk, that kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we can have, like, now when it comes to the government institutes, it always like goes with that kind of things, like now if you think about the education ministry domain, it's going to be gov.moe.lk. So it indicates its government and what is the government institute, and what's the what you call the LK represents the country. So it's kind of a recognition, right? Again, I mean, මෙයාට අදාළ දේ කියන එක. Like we like no one can use the domain called gov like other than the government. So it indicates it is on this particular category, right? So like these LK type of domains are also there. Like it is to indicate what is the country. So when it comes to the Sri Lanka, it is LK. When it comes to the United Kingdom, it's UK. United States, it's US, right? So likewise, there are some indications. That's all, right? And when the people are referring to it, they have that idea now. When they refer into this particular URL, they are getting the idea, okay, this is a government website which is in Sri Lanka, right? Because gov and LK is only issued by the Sri Lankan premises. No one else will be able to collect a .lk one from outside Sri Lanka, right? So it indicates what the country is. Right, let me know when you are done, people. Okay, one is done. How about others? All right. Okay, so I hope everyone is done. So I'm moving forward. And yeah, people, I want you to do one thing in here. Just indicate the LK part, just this part, and write top level domain. And I'm sorry for the letters, right? My screen එකද කෙලින් අතර තියාගෙන ලියන්නේ. Top level domain. TOPLEVEL, top level domain. It's only the LK part, .lk part. So like, okay, so under this, let's write about, yeah, without going to the IP address. Yeah, let's talk about the domain name and we go for the further explanations, right? I'll come to the IP address, right? What it is, right? So regarding the domain name, so we saw what we call domain name is like here in edupub.gov.lk is considered as a domain name. So it has majorly two different parts, a name and the domains, right? So at the very end, it is called the top level domain, which we got, right? So these are some top level domains that are actually the domains that you can use, right? Com stands for commercial, or org, that is to indicate non-profitable organizations. Gov, public, as we discussed. Edu, education. Net, which indicates a web-based one, right? So likewise, right? So, and there can be many different domains, as well as you can have more than one domain in a one particular domain name, right? So there are domains which indicates the country as well. IN for India, AU for Australia, likewise. Now LK stands for Sri Lanka, right? So likewise, there are different kinds of domains. Now these two is providing you the nature of the organization, right, and the nature of the country. Based on those things, these domain names, these domains are being changed. And as I told you, the very last or like the rightmost corner domain is called the top level domain, right? So the things we have learned, right? So here, yeah. So they have given some examples for you, right? So here in google.com, like the URL is there. So the google.com, this particular part is the domain name, right? And when it comes to the one we referred with, edupub.gov.lk is the domain name, and top level domain is LK. So likewise, we can indicate it, how it represents inside a particular domain name. So regarding a domain name, what we are going to write, let me see. Yeah, you may have the heading called domain name, right? Domain name. Then, yeah, I'll draw it for you. Hold on a second. Right, it's better you write it like this. Yeah, got your regular whiteboard. Yeah, it's better you after the domain name heading, it's better you say like this. The one which is in your book, let's take that particular example. Right, so this is going to be the domain name, right? So the entire thing is called the domain name, right? And these are domains. You may draw it with me. It will be save the time. This is called top level domain. Right. And just right over here, just tell GOV. Indicates government .lk indicates Sri Lanka, right? So have that. Let me know when you are done, people. Right. Okay. One is done. How about others? Can we move forward? Yes, everyone. Yes, people, are we done? Right. Lamai, are you done? I'm not getting the confirmations.
Yes.
Right, okay. How about others? All right. Okay, I'm moving forward. Right. Yeah, let's write these two tables. Right. So write this line and the table. Later you can write this and the table. Right, copy it down. Okay, are we done? Right, one is done. How about others? Right, two are done. How about others? Right, is there anyone still writing? I'm going to move. Okay. Right, here we go. So we don't need to go with the examples because we know what is the domain name and top level domain. It is clear with the picture we draw, right? Okay, so yeah, let's go and see how the internet works. Now, we need the term which is called IP address when we need to talk about this, right? Now, I'll tell you what actually happens. Now, if you think about the internet, the picture of the internet, right? It is like the globe is here, right? And there are several computers. So not several actually, like several million computers are there, right? So it is all over the world, right? Now computers are machines. Now machine can understand, like computer can understand ones and zeros. So when it comes to the network, a particular network, it doesn't matter whether it is a LAN or MAN, metropolitan area network, or a WAN, wide area network. Actually, when it comes to a one network, computer of a one network is communicating with the computer of another network. In the same network, communicate කරගන්න ක්‍රම තියෙනවා, right, without the IP address. But when it comes to the computers from one network to another network, or the devices from one network to another network is communicating, they need a particular address called IP address to identify the device that these particular computers are dealing with. So it is the way that the devices are identifying the other devices when it comes to the wide area network or the internet in our case, right? So that means like each and every computer, like all these computers will have an IP address. Now IP address is something like this. It is an IP address is an address which has 4 integers, right? So something like this, right? And one particular number can vary from 0 to 255. So IP address has 4 parts, right? And it is been separated from a dot, and there can be numbers and these numbers vary can be vary from 0 to 255, right? So each and every decimal number is going to change from 0 to 255 to indicate the different IP addresses, right? So this entire thing is called dotted decimal notation, right? So this dotted decimal notation has 4 decimal numbers, which is separated by a dot, and each and every number has a range of 0 to 255. And that is how in the internet, one computer identifies another, right? So when it goes to the advanced part of the IP address, there are 2 types of IP addresses called public and private. Here I'm not going to talk about those things, right? So there can be different numbers over here. Right? Likewise, different kinds of IP addresses are there, right? Now, when it comes to the websites, right? Website is going to host inside a computer, which we are going to address or name as a web server, right? So let's assume the website called www.abc.com, that website. So this is called a web server. Why it is called a web server? Because it has a website in it. And web server is a computer, right? Now, it's not going to be the normal computer that we see each and every day, something different than that, which has a much greater processing power than ours, and as well as much storage, the memory will be there, right? But then again, at the end of the day, it is another computer, right? One big computer, right? So which we call web server, and it has the website inside it, and it is connected with the internet 24/7 and all 365 days, right? So 24 hours and all 365 days. So anyone in the world will be able to access it through the internet, right? So now the problem is, no, it's not actually a problem. Now, do you remember how we are getting into a website? Right? We open the computer, we on the computer, we open a web browser, right? If we really know what's the name of the website, we just type it, right? So if you are visiting to my website, you can type starlabs.lk. So it will directly take me into that. Otherwise, I will go for a search engine and search whatever the thing I need. Then it will give me a list of links. So I click one of the links on that list, then it will direct me to a particular website, right? So let's take the very first situation that I told, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just going here, open my browser, taking a new tab. So on the address bar, I'm just typing Starlabs, right? And starlabs.lk, and when I press enter, starlabs.lk is visible. Now the problem is, I told you computers in a network is identifying the computers by their IP addresses, right? So this IP address is there. This is to recognize a computer in a WAN by another computer, right? So likewise, as I told you, each and every computer is going to have a IP address. Now the question is, now when we need to connect with the websites, we can't remember these IP addresses by ourselves, right? Which is harder for us, right? That is why we can't remember the telephone numbers either, right? It's a big sequence of numbers. We won't be able to recognize that, right? So instead of that, we are given the chance of domain names, right? Starlabs.lk, it is a domain name. Google.com, it is a domain name. Facebook.com, it's a domain name, right? ethaxalava.gov.lk, right? It is a domain name, right? So we are given a domain name for the easiness of ours, of the human, like the easiness of the human. But when it comes to the computer, it is not easy for them to recognize a particular domain name. It needs an IP address. So for each and every website is having their own separate IP address, right? So we know the domain name, but computer should know the IP address. So there is a confliction. We are entering the domain name. Computer should understand the IP address. So, but still we are connecting with the website. When I type the domain name starlabs.lk, still I can see that. So I'm connected with the website. So connected with the website means from the computer where this website is, has sent me the HTML files onto my web browser so I can see it. So that means once we provide the domain name to this particular browser, someone should translate this, the domain name, into its particular IP address, right? And I'll show you something interesting. I hope this will work, right? I'm taking the CMD command prompt, and I'm going to use the command called ping. Now, this ping command is used to check the connectivity in between two computers in a network. දැන් මම starlabs.lk එක connect වෙනවා කියලා කියන්නේ my particular laptop is going to connect with some other computer. So once we use this ping command, when your internet connection is on, this should show you how it's connected. Connected කියලා මෙයා බලන්නේ මෙයා පොඩි data චූටි කොටසක් යවනවා ඒ computer එකට යවලා ආයි මගේ laptop එකට ගෙන්න ගන්නවා. මගෙන් පොඩි data කොටසක් යවලා මගෙන් ගෙන්න ගන්නවා. ping command එක execute කරන computer එකෙන් තමයි මේ වැඩේ කරන්නේ. Right? Let's execute and see. Let's hope and pray it is working. Ah, yeah, here it goes. See, replies from 170.130.11.3. Now, this 170.130.111.3, this is the IP address of my website. Now, let me copy it. Right? And let me paste it over here. Right? මේක බොහෝ දුරට වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් මම IP address එක ගහලා තියෙන්නේ මගේ web browser එකේ domain name එක type කරන තැන. I'll press enter. Ah, yeah. It says it cannot be. අබලු සමහර විට yeah. මේක වෙන්න පුළුවන් හේතුවක් තියෙනවා. ඉන්ටර්නෙට් එකෙන් මේ අපිට දෙන IP address එක සැරින් සැරේට change කරන නිසා. Right? And I'll
The dynamic ID.
yeah. I'll try to ping again. Let's see whether it is going to change. No, actually, it's not going to change. 170.130.111.3. Okay. Yeah, it's not happening. අපි පොඩ්ඩක් බලමු Google එක ping කරලා. Yeah, Minu, thank you. Yeah, first we sorry, I missed the ping command. Yeah. Minu, is it working at your side?
So wait.
Ah, yes.
It's working.
It's working. Yes, it's working. Maybe now, maybe because of can me මගේ site එක host කරලා තියෙන තැන it goes through another server. Maybe because of that, right? It is not getting connected, right? Name servers කියලා තියෙනවා, it differs, right? So anyway, now like if we type the this is the IP address of the Google, right? So let me take something else, right? Yeah, මෙතන ඉඳලා මේකට paste කරොත් Google එකේ IP එක, so it gives me the google.com, right? So likewise computer can understand the IP address to connect with the particular website,
So,
right?
but the time taken is different.
Yeah. It will, because network traffic එකත් එක්ක change වෙන්න පුළුවන්, you know, like from my router to the google.com ඒකට යන්න තියෙන පාරේ තියෙන data ප්‍රමාණය අනුව එයා respond කරන time එක differ වෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? So what generally happens is, when we type a domain name on my browser, that domain name is sent to a server called domain name system, right? Which in short we call DNS servers. And DNS servers are maintained by the service provider, right? If you've got a Mobitel connection, it is maintained by the service provider. If you've got a dialog connection, their DNS is maintained by the service provider, which is a dialog, right? So in these DNSs, they got this table which has the domain names and the corresponding IP address regarding that. So when some computer requests for some particular website, that domain name sent to the DNS will solve what is the IP address for this particular domain name, and it is informed to the computer, which is the our computer, the user's computer. Then that computer will use the IP address which is received by the DNS, then connects with the particular computer that it is intended to connected with, right? So that is why the IP addresses are important. When
So can we like change our own IP address? Like,
no, it won't be, because when it comes to the websites, the IP address defined by the hosting place, right? So we can't just go and change our things, right? But when it comes to the IP address of our computer, we can give any IP address that we want, but it will again will give some troubles when we are connecting with the internet. Because the internet connect වෙනකොට, it is the router which gives us the IP address, which we call the dynamic IPs, right? So that IP can change time to time. It is done by the router. ඔගොල්ලෝ A level වලට ආවම ඇයි මේක වෙන්නේ කියන එක අපි හොඳට කතා කරනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ IP addresses කියන එක limited, එයාට දීලා තියෙන range එකකින් තමයි එයා ඒක කරගන්න ඕනේ. Like there are reasons for that, right? So for that reason, we won't be able to fix an IP address to our computer, but there are places, there are situations where we're going to address a particular IP address to our computers and use it, right? But generally, we are just allowing the router to pick an IP for us, right? So whenever our computer is connecting with the internet, our computer will ask an IP address from the router. So router is given a list of IP addresses from the service provider, and it will choose one of those to our computer for that particular moment. And like time to time, these IP addresses are being refreshed. Can you change karna router again? Right? ඒ විදිහට තමයි යා routing කියන concept එක maintain කරන්නේ, right? So in our level, we just having the simpler picture, right? So computer is talking to another computer using an IP address. Once we given a domain name, it is being converted into an IP address or mapped into an IP address using the DNS, domain name system server. And then our computer.
So, but in that, then the ISP knows like what everything we are like doing.
Didn't get you, Minu. Didn't get you.
The internet service provider does like know everything we are browsing.
Yeah. It is like this, Minu. Like there are like each and every day there are new websites are popping up in the world. So what will happen is, whenever we host a website, අපි මුලින්ම website එකක් internet වලට host කරනකොට, one particular DNS will get to know about that. මෙන්න මෙහෙම අලුත් එක්කෙනෙක් launch කරා. Okay, right? So all the DNSs all around the world are connected to each other, right? So then they will inform to the other places, there will be updation, right? this particular IP address is given to this particular website, and this is the way it's going to use that, right? ඔතන IP addresses කියලා ආවම ඒක IP address අපි අරගත්තොත් mathematical number එකක් විදිහට there is a limitation. At some point IP addresses are going to run off, right? Like දැනට තියෙන websites ප්‍රමාණය දිහා අපි බැලුවොත් it won't be sufficient to match the things, right? There are several different techniques that they use to manage this particular thing, right? සමහරවිට එක host කෙනෙක් අරගෙන එයාගෙන් sub hosts ලා ඒගොල්ලෝ හදනවා. ඒ හදලා ඒ විදිහට hosting process එකේ යන විදිහක් තියෙනවා. Those are some advanced things, right? So just for the moment, just remember this is what is happening. So we have a domain name to remember the website. Once we give the domain name, it will be converted, not actually converted, it will be replaced by an IP address from a DNS server, which we won't be able to see. We don't see that. We see our a particular domain name on the browser, right? අපි browser එකට ආවයින් පස්සේ browser එකේ කවදාවත් IP එක change වෙනව පෙන්නන්නේ නැහැනේ. If it is google.com, it is always google.com, right? But inside it's getting changed, right? So computer will be informed, but not showing on the browser, right? Yeah, Saran, I'll tell you, right? It's not showing on the browser, but our computer will get informed. Okay, you go and connect with this particular computer, which has this particular IP address. Saran, the DNS server, it is that computer, right? It stays with the companies. Again, then ape Lankawa aragathot main internet service provider is the SLT. SLT is the one which gives the internet facilities to other companies as well. එතකොට SLT එකේ main server එකේ තමයි DNS එක ඇත්තටම ඉන්නේ, right? So it is given the spaces for all other companies, and they maintain their part or the portion of the DNS. So likewise, it is being connected with the service provider and let us to handle these things, right?
So why are most of the web servers, like mainly for Sri Lanka, most of the web servers are established in Singapore? Like why can't they be established in Sri Lanka, like the network traffic?
Yeah, the fact is, Minul, I really don't know what is the concrete fact regarding that. Maybe because of the load, right? Because then අපි ගාව තියෙන server facilities උයි storage facilities උයි මදි වෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? ඒක නිසා ඒක සිංගප්පූර් වලට rent කරලා එතනින් මෙහාට direct link එකක් ගන්න එක වෙන්න පුළුවන් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට හේතුව, right? I'll go through it and see.
Then right? the network traffic is like a bit high, no? Like
yeah, will be. But when it comes to the backbone එක කියලා කියන්නේ අපේ high speed internet line එක මූද යටින් තියෙන, right? Oh, that is very nice.
Yeah, hamburger.
Okay. Since we are receiving the internet I'm sorry, right? Since we are receiving the internet facility through this internet backbone, right? අපේ මුහුද යටින් lay කරලා තියෙනවා ලොකු high speed internet line එකක් ලෝකේ වටේ. Yeah. So like SLT is the one who's having the branch from that backbone, right? The backbone making yana load deka, it's not going to be a problem even though if it is coming from the Singapore, right? Man hoyala balanna minul the fact that you are saying, right? Why, what is the actual reason behind this, right? Maybe the reason will be that particular thing, right? So in your book they have given you a nice picture to illustrate this, right? Yeah, this is how it happens, right? So first you type the URL, then the operating system will with the help of the operating system the domain name will be given to the DNS server. So DNS server will give the IP address, so the browser will have an IP address which is not showing for us. Then using that IP address, it is going to it says browser is sending HTTP GET command to the web server. It is a technical thing, right? GET command එකෙන් තමයි web server එකක් අපි connect වෙන්නේ front end එකයි back end එකයි, right? So it will send the GET command to the web server, and then web server will send the details or the HTML data into our web browser, which is requesting a particular website. So then only we will be able to see the web page on our computers, right? So it is what is happening, right? So let's write about the IP address first, then let's go to the story of the DNS, or how the internet works, right? So have the heading IP address. Yeah, it's better you copy the entire thing with the examples. Okay, one is done. Yes, maybe Minul, because it is kind of a competitive advantage that they are maintaining. Right, and the Saran, for your question, I'll search for it, Saran. I really don't know whether they have like many. Yes, people, how about the writing? Are we done? Right, great. Right, and under this, I need you to draw this diagram, which I draw over here, right? right? What I am indicating from this R is a router, right? So it's a general way of taking the data from one computer to another, right? So this will have a browser, right? So inside the browser,
So what's a proxy server?
proxy, hold on, I'll tell you, hold on. I'll tell you meanwhile you are drawing this, huh? Right. Just give me a second, people. I'm putting screen එක පොඩි කරන්න දුන්නා. Whiteboard එක චුට්ටක් වෙලා ගනී ඒක පොඩි කරන්න. Yeah, before this, it's better you draw the diagram regarding the IP address, right? Make ඇඳගෙන ඉන්න මුලින්. ඒක ඇඳගෙන ඊට පස්සේ පහළ එක ඇඳ ගන්න. First draw this. Oh my god. මට අද තේරුන්නේ නැහැ වෙලාව ගිහිල්ලා ඉවරයි කියලා. Right, never mind. Let's finish this up and go, right? And Minul, regarding your question, proxy එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ Minul, it's a security technique that we use, right? Proxy server can represent අපි එකට කියන්නේ proxy එකක් පාවිච්චි කරලා network එකක තියෙන devices ටික හංගනවා කියලා. Right? Proxy server is a server which represents or acting as an intermediary on behalf of a particular network. Now, when it comes to institutions like banks and all these financial institutes, or the place where they use a particular network, which contains in most of the case the sensitive data, the computers in that network are not visible to the outer world directly. Then අපි අපේ device එකක් ගත්තොත් we are visible to the outer world directly, right? But when it comes to the organization's devices, they are not visible to the outer world directly. Instead of that, they use a proxy server. In one side, the total network is connected with the proxy server, and proxy server is the one which connects with the outer world. As an example, with the internet. The internet වලින් එන කෙනාට පේන්නේ proxy එක තමයි එයාගේ මොනා හරි request කරනවා කියලා. So it responds only to the proxy. Proxy knows who requested in the network which is connected to it.
So the ping will be high.
Yeah. එතකොට proxy එක තමයි බෙදලා ඇතුලේ ඉන්න කට්ටියට වැඩ ටික දෙන්නේ. ඇතුලේ අය දේවල් ඉල්ලන්නේ proxy එකේ. proxy එක තමයි ඒක එළියට දෙන්නේ. right එතකොට ඒක security එක පැත්තකින් apply කරන විදිහ. right, and if you are done with this you have to draw the upper diagram as well. So draw it, then you can leave the session. And I'll make the screen a little bit smaller. Right, and please mark this R as a router. And this green color circle, this big circle is the internet. අපි ඒක ඇතුළේ internet කෙලියමු. Right, once you're done with two particular devices, then you can leave, right? So have a nice weekend, people. We are going to meet next week for the same time, right? I'll keep the session like this.